Hello, I'm Caroline Gurney, the Chief Executive Officer of Future Generation, a company that delivers returns for you and better futures for young Australians. With me today in the studio is a man who really doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give you one anyway. Dr. Philip Lowe was the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia from 2016 to 2023, where he oversaw monetary policy, including interest rates, and Australia's financial stability. Earlier this year, we were thrilled when he joined as chair of Future Generation Australia, his first board appointment since leaving the RBA. Phil, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks very much, Caroline. It's great to be here with you.
I have a lot of questions for you, and some of these have come in from our shareholders. So I really want to ask you first off, this is the only board you're on at the moment. Why Future Generation Australia? Why is it important to be part of what I think is a movement?
Well, Future Generation Australia brings together two things that I'm really passionate about: finance and helping kids. When I was the Governor of the RBA, I'd see lots of fantastic people in the finance sector who really wanted to make a difference. And the team at Future Generation was really part of that. We've got funds managers and service providers who are prepared to give their time, their expertise and their services for free, which is fantastic. And that means there's an investment product that people get good returns on over time. It's generated better returns than the ASX and less volatility. So more return, less variance, fantastic. And on the other side of the equation, money goes to kids' charities every single year to help kids in need. So for me, being involved with people who want to make a difference, prepared to give their time to help the society be a better place, it was a perfect fit, and I was honoured and thrilled to be invited to be part of it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I think one of the big things that Future Generation Australia and Future Generation Global are all about is really helping young Australians, making them, they're already incredibly strong, but giving them the tools to actually help them to adapt and have that resilience for their future life. What do you see is actually needed in this country to help more young Australians prosper?
Well, all the research shows that the start in life is incredibly important for everything else that happens in your life. Kids who have a difficult childhood, whether it's because of family issues or for education reasons or health reasons, it's much harder for them through the rest of their lives. So it's really important that the society helps those kids who don't get a great start, either because of health or family reasons, and the not-for-profits that we're working with are helping those kids, help give them a better start. And if you get a better start, you're going to have a better life, be a more productive member of the society. So I'm really pleased to be part of a funds management vehicle that actually recognises that and setting out to help kids. So, we will all benefit from it.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I sort of look out at the moment in terms of the cost of housing. We have inflation increasing. What can we actually do to help young people? For the future, like what can we do in terms of housing? What is your view in that area?
Well, I think housing's probably the number one economic and actually social issue we face. If people can't have affordable, convenient housing that's well located to transport, their life's more difficult. It puts stresses on relationships and on families. So the solution to housing is more supply. When the population's rising quickly, for good reasons, we need to keep building, and we need to keep building kind of on the outskirts of the city or in the infill of the city. And if we can build supply, then people can have cheaper, well-located housing, and that's going to make all our lives better. The fact that people are spending so much money on housing brings a lot of stress to their finances, their relationships. People have to live a long way from where they work, so they spend a lot of time commuting, which reduces the quality of their lives, and that puts stresses on families. So if there's one thing we can do as a society, it's build enough houses or enough dwellings for the population, and we're not doing that. And when there's a strong demand and a short supply, prices go up. It's not rocket science. And so rents have been rising quickly and prices are rising quickly and put stress on everybody. So we've got to add to supply.
So you are widely regarded as one of Australia's best economists. What, in terms of the economy, what are the levers that we can pull to actually help young Australians in the future? What are we overplaying or underplaying?
Well, I think that the main economic issue that I'm kind of focused on at the moment is that we're kind of almost sleepwalking into a period of mediocre growth. We've had 3 decades of really strong growth in Australia that's boosted people's living standards. We had strong productivity growth, favourable demographics, and a big increase in the price of our exports. So that generated a lot of extra national income, and we all benefited from that. Going forward, productivity growth's weak, demographic dividends behind us, and the price of exports aren't likely to be rising anymore. So if we don't have those things going for us, then our living standards could stagnate. And that means that people's real wages don't rise, the returns to investors on assets are lower, the government budget's going to come under pressure, and that's going to make life more difficult for everybody. So I hope that when my kids are my age, the pie will be much bigger and we can all share in that. But if it doesn't get bigger, then it's going to be difficult for everybody, including our kids. So the challenge we have as a nation is to do what we can to lift productivity so that we become smarter and better at doing stuff.
So you've talked at length about improving productivity in Australia, and obviously there is a lot of research out there. I mean, what do you think could be the 2 key drivers to improve productivity in Australia?
Well, when I'd go to the parliamentary committees, they'd always ask me what to do to lift productivity, and I'd always say, well, read the reports that have been commissioned. And the reports...
let's condense it.
Yeah, so the reports identify kind of maybe more than 2 areas, because there's no kind of silver bullet here. The tax system, I think we still tax wealth generation and too heavily, and consumption too lightly. The way we tax land is all screwed up. So there's things we could do on tax. They're all politically difficult, so we're not doing them. But on tax, there's a lot. Infrastructure, the way we plan the pipeline of infrastructure, and then the way we price infrastructure is very important. Skills development. Our global rankings have slipped on in education, so we need to keep working on that. And I think the energy system. All our businesses need cheap, reliable energy to run effectively, and we've got work to do in that space. So if we can get tax, infrastructure, skills and energy, if we can get that right.
Just the 4.
But the good news is there are things that we can do in each of those areas that will make the society better off and give our kids a higher standard of living than we have. But they're all politically difficult. So the challenge, as I said, is really a political one, not an economic one.
So how can government play a bigger role in sort of helping the economy for the long term?
Well, I think it's got to address the areas we've been talking about. It's not just government, though. Business has a role to play. We need businesses to be dynamic, innovative, developing new products and pushing the boundaries all the time. So it's not just government, but in the areas I've just talked about, government does have a leadership role. I think on housing supply requires changes to zoning, requires less regulation to make it easier to build. So there are things that can be done in that area. And in education, government has a kind of hands on many of the levers as well. So, but it's not just an issue for government, it's an issue for business and for all of us to do what we can to make the pie bigger so that we can all share in it.
Undoubtedly. I think one of the questions that everybody talks about is interest rates. And I hate to do this to you, but what is your view on interest rates? I mean, you've been traveling, recently, you've been in Europe. I mean, what are the other reserve banks doing about making sure that, interest rates are lowered over the coming years?
Well, their objective isn't to make sure interest rates are coming down, it's to make sure inflation comes down and stays down, because that's really kind of critical that we achieve that, because as we've been reminded in the last few years, inflation eats away at your real incomes and makes it life harder for people. So we've got to get inflation back to target globally and here in Australia. And many central banks feel like they're on a reasonable path to doing that. Interest rates have peaked in most countries and they're actually starting to decline in some. One day we will follow that, but when's the right time, who knows? So the questions that other central banks are now debating is how far interest rates are going to come down and over what speed and when that occurs. Here in Australia, that the next move could be down, but it could well be up as well. We've still got work to do here.
So you've said a number of times that the RBA's, one of its roles is really to ensure Australians' future prosperity and stability. So obviously this is one of my favourite subjects in terms of future generation and what we can do to help young Australians. I mean, how do you see your role in playing a part in ensuring future generations?
And the work through Future Gen, that's we're giving kind of money to kids' charities every year, and so that can help kids who have issues with homelessness or with mental health or kind of less education opportunities than some of the others in society. So I think if we can help those kids who are most disadvantaged, particularly because, as I said before, the start in life is the most important thing, we'll in my new role, I'll make a contribution. In the previous role, it was about keeping inflation low and helping people get into jobs. And one of the things I'm proudest of during my term of government, we got the unemployment rate down to the lowest in more than 40 years. And when people get jobs, their families have opportunities, they get skills, and it's easier to be kind of a productive member of the society. So getting people into jobs and keeping them in jobs and keeping inflation down, the financial system stable, that makes a big difference. But my new role is less big picture, but no less important in helping kids who are disadvantaged.
And one question I love asking our fund managers and a number of other very generous Australians is, what is your twofold in life? Like, what are your dual purposes that you have now that you've left the RBA?
Well, the RBA, my objective was to do what we could to make the society a better place. And the personal objective is to look after my family, help my family as best I could. And they're still the two driving things in my life, contributing to public good and helping the private good as well. And being part of Future Gen is my new way of helping the public good by helping those who are most disadvantaged and who need it most, the kids.
And so why should investors invest in Future Generation?
Well, you can come at this from different perspectives. One is the pure financial one, and on a pure financial one, you're getting, over the 10 years it's been in existence, a better return than the ASX 200 and less variance. So, normally in economics you don't get this, a higher mean and less variance, so that's good. I think a second thing that many people value is a steady stream of franked dividends. Unlike some other investments where dividends go up and down, in this fund, the dividends have steadily risen over time. So that's the pure financial aspect of it. The other is being part of something that makes the society better. Instead of the fees going to funds managers, the 1% of the assets each year go to kids' charities, and that helps the kids who most need it most. So good financial return, steady stream of franked dividends, and you're helping kids. Why not invest?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Phil, we are delighted that you've joined the Board of Future Generation or Australia's chair, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. It's been good to be with you.